right, everybody. Excuse me. I wanted to go ahead and briefly just recap the procedure for accident and injury reporting for on-duty injuries here. Most importantly, I sent out a form several months ago, which sort of recapped how to do that. Pretty self-explanatory, but we still have had a few glitches in it. I know we don't do it often, and that's actually a good thing. However, it is very important that when we do have to complete these, that we do them appropriately. So just a couple of things to recap real quickly. First and foremost is taking care of the employee. Okay, don't care for the individual in an effort to try to complete paperwork. That's not that important. First thing we do if we have an injury, all right, they need to report it to their immediate supervisor. Then we're going to determine at that point they are a patient. So we want to give them a full assessment on the scene with our personnel or whatever EMS personnel are there. Once that's complete, we're going to determine whether or not they're going to be transported. All right. If they are, then somebody from our agency needs to stay with them until either they are admitted or a family member or a loved one arrives to be with them as well. So those are sort of some of the worst case scenarios if we have a significant injury and they're transported or so forth. So what we're going to talk about is the most common thing that we're doing is somebody has a minor injury on the scene. Maybe they're treated on the scene and then released. Maybe a couple days later, they want to be seen. With that, that's where the documentation is so important. Okay. So the first thing we do is, again, get them checked out, either fill out a complete EMS report or an SOR on them. Again, they are a patient once they are injured on the scene. The next thing we want to do is we're going to immediately upon arriving back on station, complete the first report of injury. And the one thing I want to make clear is all of these forms are to be filled out by the supervisor, not the employee. What we want the employee to do as soon as they are able is to type a brief incident report. They can utilize the fire manager form if they would prefer, or it can just be a quick narrative in an email form. It doesn't matter, but I need a description from the injured person stating basically what they were doing prior to, how the injury occurred, and just basically the before, during, and after brief summary of their injury. Okay. And that needs to be emailed to you or printed out or whatever the format to the officer. That will be included in the entire packet that I'll receive eventually. And I'll show you why this is important in just a moment. The next thing is the supervisor's investigation form. All right. First report of injury and supervisor investigation form are both to be filled out by the supervisor. Next, we have incident reports. Again, we want those to be filled out by the employee. If it's a significant injury or other parties are involved, then go ahead and get a statement from the others. That will help in an investigation down the road. This isn't a disciplinary issue. It's not a fault finding issue. It is a making sure we get good care to the employee who's injured and then following up later to see how we can prevent this same type of injury from occurring to someone else. So keep that in mind. And then finally, I will need an authorization to release medical information. And that's something that the employee does fill out. That's the only thing I want them to fill out throughout this whole process. So on the screen here, you can see I've got my browser. All I need to do, if you don't have the link readily available, is just type in IPEP claims in your browser. All right. And once that pops up, it's going to be the first thing that pops up again. So go to IPEP insurance and you'll quickly see the home page that shows claim forms. And this gets really pretty easy. There's more resources on here, but most importantly, go to the claim forms. All right. And it's going to open them up. And I'm getting ready to email out samples of a completed supervisor incident report. I'm sorry, supervisor's investigation report and your first report of injury. Okay. We've had some stuff coming in lately where the date of injury was incorrect. We've had other things where the employee signed. The insurance company will not accept a claim if the employee is the one submitting it. If you can understand the principle behind that, that's essentially an employee saying, hey, this is a work-related injury. I need you to take care of me. They need that to come from a supervisor or administrator of the department. So we want to make sure those get filled out by the appropriate people and completely. I've had forms come in incomplete. I've had forms come in that show a phone number where the address belongs. That stuff is just really pretty simple and should not be happening. But to clear it up a little bit, again, I will be emailing out momentarily completed samples. And we'll look through these forms real quick and I'll just kind of talk through them as quickly as possible. So again, we're going to scroll down. First thing I want to do is, if you want to get this to the patient first, then get that medical authorization form. All this is so that later on IPEP can get all of their file from the treating hospital or entity, whatever it is, to see that all these bills get paid, and they can follow up and help set up a plan for their care. But again, here it is, patient or representative signature. And again, worst case scenario, if the patient is not able to sign for themselves, then we need a power of attorney, a spouse, parent, whatever the case is, somebody there to do that. However, under normal circumstances, patient completes this form, address, phone number, social security number, date of birth, and then your signatures. And what this does, again, it authorizes the insurance company to get the medical information to follow through with their continuing care. All right, so that one, pretty brief, pretty self-explanatory, and that is the only form, aside from an incident report, that I need from the employee. So again, first report of injury, the most important form. I have 7 days to submit this. I expect to be contacted immediately, whether it's phone, email, text, you name it. If somebody has an injury, it doesn't matter the time of day. If I don't respond immediately, that's fine. Obviously, if this is a significant injury or something worse, then we'll make every additional effort to contact people and get people involved. But again, normal sprains, strains, that type of thing. So we're going to click on the first report of injury. Again, social security number, you're going to have that information is in Fire Manager. If you don't have it from the employee, you can go back, employee database, open it up in Fire Manager and get everything that you need here. Again, that's why it's so important that we keep that information updated. All right, next, date of birth. We're going to check the sex. Occupational title. We are going to have 2 options. All right, again, I failed to put in administrative in case this is an issue with Karen. She's the only civilian administration that we have. So again, there'll be another code. I'll deal with that later. But in the meantime, you will have fire or EMS. And basically, everybody falls into one of 2 categories. They are either a firefighter / EMT or an EMT. Type in those. When we get to the NCCI code for firefighters, 7710. And for EMS only, 7705. And again, these are on the samples that I sent out. I sent one of each, EMS and fire. Otherwise, all the information is going to be the same. Their last name, first name, middle initial, marital status, hire date, state of hire, status, full-time or part-time. Those are the only options. And again, all of this is in Fire Manager for the employee. All right. Their address, the hours. I make this one pretty simple. What I do is I go in and put under the days / weeks, just put in 24 / 48. That's going to be a common answer for all the employees. I can clean that up. The only time that is relevant is if it becomes the issue where they're going to be off an extended period of time and the insurance company is going to be reimbursing the department for salaries and wages. There's a whole other set of things that I have to deal with on that for hourly rates and hours worked. But just to keep things clean, under that days / weeks box, just put 24 / 48. Paid day of injury, that's always a yes. Any work-related injury, they remain paid. So that's easy. All right. Salary continued. Don't even worry about it. Phone number. Okay. Number of dependents, again, in Fire Manager. But if you need to ask, then ask. Wages, excuse me. If they are part-time, then mark hourly. If they are full-time, then mark year, and I will clean up the rest of that if need be. All right. The employer, address, and all that good stuff. That is all common sense stuff. That's your station 201 address is the employer address. The federal ID number, once again, I have that on the sample forms that I'll be submitting by email momentarily, but it is 74-316-3870. That's our federal ID number. Again, the only time you'll have a variable here is on the SIC code. The SIC code for firefighters, 9224. SIC code for EMS, 621910. And again, all of this is on the sample form that I will be, the sample completed form that'll go out here just momentarily. The location number is not important. If it is on station, you can simply put station 201 or station 202. Claim number, report purpose code, all of that information is nothing that you need to concern yourself with. Actual location it's a small box down here, pretty easy to miss, but the actual location is important. We need to know, was this at an intersection during an accident? Was this at an address on a call? So whatever the actual location of where the accident or injury occurred is important, so please complete that. Moving down here, all the rest of this is something that IPEP will fill out once they receive it. So that entire section basically can be skipped. Once you get down here to occurrence and treatment, that is where you guys get back involved. All right. So we'll go date of injury and exposure. That's important. Again, we have 7 days to file this. 9 times out of 10, this had better be completed the day of the injury. Okay. Again, that doesn't mean they're seen. If somebody injures themselves, it's slightly, they give you the, hey, it hurts a little bit, but I think I'll be okay. Fill out the first report of injury. I submit these. Nothing happens if they come back in another shift and they feel fine and they have no treatment. There's no cost. It's not a claim after all. This is simply notification. So be sure that gets done. So time of occurrence, ballpark, all right? I just need to know about when. The date the employer was notified, again, I hope that's the same date as injury. It should be. The nature. When you get on the supervisor's investigation form, when you scroll down to the second page, there is a list of type, body part, and all that types of things. Utilize the wording that is on that document to make life easy. When you get to the code, don't worry about the code section. Just type in nature of injury, slip and fall, twisted ankle, whatever the case is. We get down to last work date. It will be the date of injury. The time the workday began, most of the time it will be a 0700. However, for some of our part-time employees, it could be the 1900. Or if they were off on comp for a few hours, say they come in at 10 a.m., just put in the time that they started working that day. This comes into play for me later when I do annual reporting for OSHA and the State Board of Labor and all that stuff. But it's important to keep all of these boxes filled out for me. It makes my life easier at the end of the year. Date disability began. Probably not going to have that information, so don't worry about it. The part of the body, common sense there, what hurts. Return to work date, again, you may or may not know that. If they came right back to work and simply reported it, then put the same date as the injury. Date of death, well, again, hopefully we don't need to worry about that, but that'll be something that you won't deal with either. Did the injury or exposure occur on employer's premises? Yes or no? Very simple. Was it on station? And if not, then it's a no, and we'll get to that later with the insurance company when we determine how it's done. Contact name, that will be me. Put myself as a contact with my cell phone number so that they can get a hold of me with any questions. We don't need too many people involved. It starts to get foggy. The department or location where the accident or injury occurred, more of a repetition of what was up top, but put the actual location. Any equipment, materials, or chemicals involved. And this is barring a thorough investigation. In the sample that I gave you, I put down debris. The scenario I documented is a twisted ankle, a person sweeping up the road after an accident. They twist their ankle, and they're being seen for that. So again, what materials were involved? Okay, it was debris. If it's a burn, what materials are involved? Well, I mean, fire and fire products. If it's a smoke inhalation and so forth. So just write down to the best of your knowledge any equipment or materials involved. If it's a laceration with a tool, then write down the tool that's involved. Specific activity engaged in during accident exposure. Doesn't have to be a novel here. Again, cleaning up debris after an accident, climbing a ladder, stepping into the truck, stepping out of the truck, anything, rolling hose, whatever they were doing, real briefly, put that in there as the specific activity. Work process the employee was engaged in. Generally, it's going to be emergency response, or it could be daily cleaning. Again, what were they doing? What was the overall assignment that they were under when the injury occurred? And now this is where the online form is generally beneficial, but not so much in this situation, where you have the how the injury or exposure occurred. You basically get about one sentence before this thing cuts off. It won't print the full box. So try to make a very brief summary. Walking, slipped and fell. Lifting hose, pulled back. Something like that, because I will utilize the incident report that I mentioned earlier to clarify the details of how this happened, and I send that in with that. That's the only downside to the online fillable form. It's really handy otherwise, but yeah, just you can only put in a very limited amount of information in that box, so just give me a brief summary, one sentence, and as a matter of fact, if you have a good incident report, just type in C incident report, and that'll be good enough for me to move to forward on to IPEP. Cause of injury code. And again, that's just looking on the back of that supervisor's form. There's several different options. Just pull one. If they do go to the hospital, I need this information, the name of the physician or healthcare provider. A witness is probably going to be you as the shift supervisor. All right. The date the administrator notified, again, I hope that is the same date of injury. It should be. And then finally, date prepared. That's the date that you're doing this. Again, should be the date of injury. Preparer's name, put my name in there again. And then just the title of safety officer and my phone number. I want to be the point of contact on this once it's complete. All right. So again, refer to the samples that I'll be emailing out here in just a minute for exactly how to fill in the blanks, and a quick reference of those SIC and NCCI code numbers. And those are just federal codes for the different types of employees that we have. Next, supervisor's incident form. All right. Again, it's a fillable form. This one's a little bit more user-friendly. And this is where I was talking about. If you go down to the second page, you have all of these sort of fill in the blanks. Use the same wording. That's going to make life easier. Pick one. You're going to have a type. If you have something that's really, really extraordinary, then let me know. But otherwise, you can find most things within, loosely within these categories. Nature of injury and the part of the body. So again, we're going to come up here, company location. Company or location. That's a quick, you can put BCPFD or Bargersville Community Fire Protection District, however you want to abbreviate that, that is fine. Department, generally going to be suppression or EMS. Again, if it's Karen, I'll be dealing with it, or Chief Funkhauser or Pruitt probably anyway, but then it would be administration. But otherwise, we all fall into suppression or EMS. Date of incident and day of the week, self-explanatory. Exact location, again, where did it occur? The time, the date reported. The name of the injured. Occupation is going to be firefighter / EMT or EMT. All right. And now here you go. This is a drop down. So if you start to type, so for instance, nature of injury. Hang tight 1 second. So let's just do abrasion just for simplicity's sake. So if I come here, nature of the injury, it is a drop box. I can just click the one that I want. All right. Item affecting the injury or illness. Inflicting injury or illness. Again, if it's debris, if it's a hose, if it's a saw, all right. And then back over here, the type of accident, all right. It's going to be, let's just say a fall from. There you go. Person with the most control over the item. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be the injured person. Now, if this is a vehicle accident and we have a passenger, say a backstepper, that is injured in a vehicle accident, the person with the most control is now going to be the driver. Just type it, first name, last name. There'll be more to come on that as far as investigation goes. A quick description of the incident. This will hold a lot more information than the other forms, so you can get a little bit more detailed. But again, feel free to utilize C incident report. But that needs to be not only the employee's incident report, but yours. If you're going to submit it on your supervisor investigation form, it needs to be your incident report along with the employee. Direct causes of the incident, most of that's going to be pretty simple. And you can even summarize that and call it, a slip and a fall, whatever, something like that. Why each cause exists. So if you list a cause, then list why you believe it's there. And these aren't anything that's going to be held up in court. It's just your impression. Actions taken or needed to prevent the occurrence. If you can come up with something real brief, then go ahead. Date completed, investigated by, that's your name, the date. Reviewed by will be me once again. So reviewed by me with the date. All right. So I think that covers most of it. Wage statements and mileage reimbursements, those aren't things that you're going to have to deal with at the shift level. That's going to be administrative if we have somebody that's off for an extended period of time. The number one most important thing, though, guys, keep in mind, and please relate to the employees, is first of all, reporting the injury. We have to know about it before we can handle it appropriately. Secondly, timely, accurate, and complete documentation. And that needs to be done by the supervisors and not the employees. I can't emphasize that enough. This is why I keep getting so many versions of this and they are not correct. Supervisors complete all these forms. And then the next thing is continuing communication. If somebody is injured to the point where they're going to be off work, I am their point of contact to make their problems go away. I'm the one who will contact IPEP. I'm the one that will follow up on appointments. I'm the one that will help them. If I need to drive somebody to an appointment, we will see that that happens. But I have to be communicated with every step, every appointment, following every appointment, every follow-up, any changes in condition. And if they start to receive bills, that's something that we've dealt with on numerous occasions where the billing at the hospital or the OC Health or whatever the case is, they send a bill to the employee and the employee panics like they're going to get in some kind of claims trouble. And I just need that because IPEP will fire off nasty letters to the billing companies to make them clear that they can't bill you as the employee because it's a workers' comp injury. So again, just wanted to spend a little bit of time and clean this up. We can do it as a training, but I thought this would probably be just as good. If you need more help with it, get a hold of me. But everything was in the packet that I delivered a few months back. If you need copies of anything, shoot me an email. And again, I will actually, right this second, I will send out the sample forms that I discussed earlier to the officer email. There we go. Forms on the way. So all of these sample forms are now coming to you. Any questions, give me a call.